So I have the entire skill list for Dante pulled up.
Yeah, I'm playing the reboot at the moment, so I have the
Oh, good.
global list
Oh,
open.
good God. All right. So someone requested, I think it was Samaj requested a video asking who would win gameplay wise between Reboot Dante or DMC4 Dante. So I got the two biggest DMC gameplay nerds I know to show up and assist me with this.
Qualified as all hell.
So I have one devil over there who's currently dying due to energy drink poisoning, who's more of a DMC4 rep, and I have Mangler who's got the reboot open to
Yeah.
I
discuss.
have
We both know a lot about both of them and have played the games extensively for hundreds of hours. But yeah,
I
both of
have
us are needed here for this.
200 hours in base 4 and 126 in DMC4 special edition.
I got somewhere around like I want to say like 100, in definitive edition, and then like another 100 in like base reboot,
All right,
and
so
then
good.
like a couple hundred in four and a couple hundred in 4C. So yeah, we know what we're talking about, fellas.
All right, so I guess like this. So did he specify the scenario like of what like is it a versus matchup hypothetical or is it just like who plays better?
I believe it is a versus matchup. Your request chat.
Well, here let me check real quickly then since
Okay, so gameplay equalized scenario of Dante fights DMC4 versus Reboot comparing. Oh, comparing each game's moveset. Can Reboot Dante beat? Can DMC4 beat Reboot's fleshed out moveset? Is the most interesting in gameplay sense. I feel going to let DMC4 Dante have inertia because Reboot has good evasion moves. Good matchup for both. So he wants us to talk. I guess he just gave his own thoughts down there. So he wants us to talk about comparing each of their move sets, and then after presenting the information, who would win in a equalized like scenario. I guess like if we equalize certain game stats, so like certain points of damage for base attacks, maybe some stagger, just so that the fight could actually mechanically happen. Uh, and then just talking about like how it would all go down.
all right. So I guess the all important first question: who's got the better moveset?
So
DMC4.
this depends on what we're talking about because we're in this case we're not talking about how it counters minor enemies. We're talking about how it counters a player character that has very different physics and very different gravity from your average enemy. So one thing I would like to point out before this begins is that they would both be operating under their own physics like system, meaning if For Dante steps into the room with Reboot Dante and he starts comboing him, Reboot Dante does not operate under the same physics that For Dante does. So he doesn't have like inertia and like momentum in the air, at least not to the same extent. So if For Dante starts to combo him, he's gonna float in and out of For Dante's hitboxes because of how gravity works in the reboot. Like the longer he actually like combos him in the air with like aerial rave and other things like the Pandora's like minigun into Lucifer neutral
There's
moves.
also Luciferose. There's Yamato combo,
Yeah,
or
like
actually just the
all
standard Yamato, which
every single one of those options eventually is going to result in like Reboot Dante falling out of them over a period of time because he's going to get like heavier and heavier because that's typically how the reboots like combo thing works. It starts a little bit floaty at first, so he'll get combo for a little bit, but then he'll fall out eventually. Like
and
his physics will just nullify air combos.
Dante can also control his weight in 4 with Royal Guard,
Yeah, but
allowing you.
he has the buffer.
Oh no, you
So
don't. You can actually in Royal Guard if you hold the stance in air, fall faster than anything else
yeah,
in.
so you're buffering your weight then.
Yeah, you
Like
make yourself heavier.
yeah, so your body's switching to raw guard. So basically, I guess we kind of have to discuss like what would be Dante's like ideal win condition. Would it just be the same thing as like I guess with Dante? What would be for Dante's ideal win condition? Would it just be the same as him fighting like your average enemy, where just get them in a combo repeatedly and spam aerials and physics physics manipulation until you can set them up for like some kill moves. Is that ideally the situation? What do you
I
think?
mean, maybe there's a lot of ground combos as well that control. Because if we do 4 with Nero
Mhm.
with the Dante boss fight, Flipper can get Dante out of anything that Reboot will throw at him if it allows for a knockback, especially. Or there's Royal
Yeah.
Guard, which can be activated for perfect release, which I think Royal Guard will be what carries the fight, especially for 4
So
Dantes.
this kind of, I guess I kind of have to talk about like what Reboot Dante's win conditions are. So Reboot Dante's win conditions are just zoning, basic aerial combos, and then like just probably just a lot of like bait and punish with Angel Evades. Because his Angel Evades are literally like a triple trickster dash on top of like his normal dash, and he can do them round to air, and he can sink as many of them as he wants. And the amount of iframes that he gets on them are insane. They're also incredibly fast in terms of in lag and startup. So they're very, very safe, and they can always be spammed. He can also immediately follow them up into another attack. So he's like he can basically act out of them as if they were like a trick, essentially. Um, so if we're talking like just like sheer maneuverability and the ability to move and transition on the ground and like basic aerial momentum, he does beat like DMC4's Dante's ability to move around because Dante has to manipulate physics specifically from shooting star into Royal Guard back into like aerial raid back into other things. And the only
Oh,
consistent
there's other
way,
ways to do that.
well, that is the main way that he does it. And the way that he buffers momentum consistently after he performs the Royal Guard is an air trick or a shooting star back to the enemy to perform a jump cancel. Yes.
Well, you have. Okay, so you're talking about skyrunning.
Yeah, well, guard flying, but it also includes sky running. That's the
Yeah.
main. I know there are Royal Guard cancels for trickster dashes on the ground, but those are unreliable.
They're not. If you know the timings.
I mean, we're assuming this is like an optimized character, so they know the timings, but we're comparing this in the context of can he actually chase Reboot Dante? And I don't think if we're comparing the Dante that can dash 4 times and be completely safe in and out of all those actionable frames versus a Dante that guards can dash once and cancel it sequentially into like maybe another one. That's not gonna be good enough.
Well, there's not just canceling it into potentially. You're definitely canceling it into another one, and you also have the guard frame as well that you have to counter as well. So if the Reboot Dante goes to hit him in that guard frame, it'll block it.
I mean, he could
And if
just
it's within that frame and you release that, that momentum will carry for Dante into a perfect release.
well, he could just. I'm just saying, like there are several options he could have for just running away. Like Dante's not going to have the ability to chase him, so he can zone away and then just
But
do
for Dante
overdrive.
has Trick
He
times
can just
2, 3 in DT.
yeah, and trick does require like trick also leaves you wide open when you do it, so he could just be shotgun blasted by Coyote or Revenant, whatever it's called, the reboot version. Like frame data wise, it's not significantly that different, especially if we're
Eh,
talking the definitive edition.
it doesn't leave you wide open for Trick.
Wait, trick itself, yeah, trick does leave you wide open. Like, granted, you can follow up shortly afterwards, but most of the reason you don't ever get punished on trick is because most enemies don't really reasonably have the kit to actually challenge you. I think the only character in the game that can properly punish that is like DMC4 Dante. So, like in this
Even
scenario,
then,
we'd be talking
there's
about a very experienced player who just sees this. Granted, in like we're also talking about a scenario where like neither one of these players has entertained the notion of a PvP. in like this scenario. This would be a completely unique experience. However, keep in mind that both players have played both games. We're allowing them access to this knowledge. And the reboot person is going to have a massive advantage because even if we consider that what they've played is only an AI, they have fought a version of DMC4 Dante, even if it is an AI with just Dante's moveset behind it. They know how all of his frame data works and how all of his when he's when he's weak, like when he's vulnerable, when his disadvantage state is, and that AI would actually have a better case of controlling Dante's like basic neutral options and his tools because that AI is basically superhuman. It doesn't operate by like human limitations. So because of this, the reboot player would probably be in a significantly better point of advantage because they would already have like intimate knowledge of like what moves would be safe and what moves would not in a practical scenario. Whereas there's like no practical scenario to measure like how reboot Dante would be countered in like a meta game, quote unquote, because there's not like a reboot Dante boss fight or like something equivalent to that. There's only like this would be different if it was like reboot Virgil because he technically does have a boss fight and has like a hollow version of his boss fight, right? But reboot Dante doesn't. So there's no like sort of analysis that would allow you to like, I guess, make a decision um, based on like how safe certain follow-ups would be. You get what I mean? Like,
Somewhat, but for air trick, if he does get close enough, is able to jump cancel that, you have Lucifer Taunt or Lucifer Rose throw. You have the Killer Bee from Gilgamesh or whatever you want to call it. You have
yes.
Coyote
It's Full
A.
House.
Yeah. You also have the Pandora
Mm-hmm.
and ENI Rainstorm. Or
Mm-hmm.
there's also Skyrave. I forget the
Yes.
correct term for that.
Yes.
Which is
Or
just
Star Rave, I think,
yeah,
is what it's
Star
referred
Rave.
to. Because it's shooting star into aerial rave, hence
Yep.
Star Rave.
And you can actually maneuver that around the enemy as well.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying like all those options require Dante to perform a jump cancel. Like almost all of his physics breaking, like I guess physics maneuverability more accurately, requires him to perform a jump cancel because he has to get in the position to transfer his momentum around through Royal Guard in the air. At least to
Oh, I
do
mean,
guard flying, or even just to do like various like uh, sky flying, because he still has to buffer his momentum. So even if you're not doing like a guard fly itself, Royal Guard is still required to buffer said momentum. Now, granted, that's only required for like certain transfers of moves, so you can do some actionable moves like some Lucifer stuff into
there's
Full
also
House.
Draw from Gilgamesh, which has iframes.
Oh yes, the step back punch that
You can cancel the punch.
Oh yeah, no, you don't even need to do the punch itself because he technically the first step doesn't involve an actual attack. It requires a follow up to do the punch.
Yep, you also lead into Kick 13 with it.
So
Rebellion.
how many options does Dante have for his actual like neutral kits that like are good in and of themselves? Like how many of them would actually be like because all of these options that you mentioned, I think can be reliably countered by most things in Reboot Dante's kit. So like approaches with air trick can be countered by Revenant, or like with fireworks and normal shot. He has a fast enough frame data to handle it. He could also just shoot him with Kablooey,
So what
and
about the Lucifer pins?
that's easy. Like Angel Evade or Demon Evade.
I mean, once they hit him or whatnot, because if you're being attacked or whatnot, even with Swordmaster, you actually are able to send out two at a time.
He could just use Angel Evade. and he could just keep angel evading, and eventually Dante's gonna have to throw the rose or they'll be detonated. But the person who's playing Reboot Dante will know how long it takes before they manually detonate. So he'll just wait
Well,
for Dante to throw the rose, or he'll just wait for them to detonate. Like there's not really like you could detonate them first, sure, but the
well, no,
person
with
can.
the Swordmaster one, you can actually reposition that as well.
Oh no, you can reposition them out of their body around Dante, like, and then refire them. I get that, but you have to then put Dante, like the reboot player, in like another. I can't say Dante because they're both fucking Dante.
Or just
Uh,
Dante and Dante.
yeah, so you can't do this on Dante because then you're gonna have to hit him again. You're gonna have to create that setup again. I mean, you can, but it's going to be much more difficult to create the same setup twice for a person who's like waiting for that. The person who's playing against DMC4 Dante knows Lucifer is the best weapon in his kit by far. It allows him like so much stage and like arena control because he can throw out like four with just an aerial neutral. He can reposition them so many times. He can shoot them to your position almost instantly. He can hold them in place to throw off a telegraph. He has so many mix-ups with Lucifer. So the Reboot player is going to be watching out for when he switches to that specifically, and if they get repositioned. So I don't think it's going to work as reliably the first time, or as reliably the second time if he repositions. Because again, like Angel Evade is a thing. Um, hang on a sec.
You know, like I understand that like these things are entirely planned for, but I can't pause videos while we're recording with this current software.
Yes, this is true.
I say Dreadnought, we can't really use in this scenario at all either, due to the time that it
Yeah,
takes to charge it.
I would like to mention that the fight probably starts with them obviously at full health and like the equivalent of like one DT activation. So for Reboot Dante, he'd have like the first bar up to like his DT, and then like Dante would have three DT runes. So although we've been talking win conditions, we haven't actually been evaluating most of moveset. I mean we have, but like not really. Um anyway, I'm gonna continue talking win conditions. I think Reboot Dante's win conditions, like as far as its zoning, include like the main ones that I would argue for is like just setups into Kablooey. Because Kablooey, between the two of them, is probably a far more effective remote detonation device than Lucifer, because it's a gun and not a devil arm. So he doesn't have to switch or hold any of his other inputs. He can shoot Dante with the explosive sticks and then just keep like hounding him. And unlike the reboot, unlike the Lucifer thing, like he doesn't have the ability to position them, but he knows like he's not going to have to because he can just detonate them at any point in time. So he could just camp back and fire like overdrive or just dash away and throw Aquila and just keep throwing all of these range things. Also,
And what does he
Aquila's
have to counter Pandora?
Pandora. I'm aside from the Angel Evade, he could just or Angel Boost. He could just actually Aquila itself would counter Pandora. So it's Aquila's forward like slash. Hang on.
Well, my statement is you can throw Pandora without any rage meter.
Yeah, no, you can. It does. It just does significantly less damage. Right?
I'm
You're
not
talking about Taboo, right?
utility. No, not taboo.
Oh, the what's it
The
fucking
Beyblade,
called?
Beyblade of Death.
What is it? What is it called? I'm trying to remember its name. Yeah, so that thing, Angel Evade. I know it sticks on people as its position, but it will only pass, I think, about once or twice without any disaster meter.
Passes one time without any disaster meter, then comes right back to take.
Yeah,
And
so
on the
so that
return trip, you actually get a hit in as well. So if during the Angel Evade, for Dante's being attacked, that should stagger.
Oh, so that's actually pretty easy to get around. So that has enough startup to where reboot Dante could just shoot him with either charge shot ricochet. But keep in mind, like he can. So if they start the fight, Dante can immediately just shoot like one bullet or like stinger or like he could just angel evade and then hold his pistols and now he's got like one charge shot and then just like dash around while that charge shot is like ricocheting around the field. And then once he comes out of dash, he can just throw Aquila or do Aquila like by I think it's Big Slick, which is it's the forward rush that involves like three Aquilas spiraling upward as a dash and leads up into aerial combos. Even if Dante Royal guards it, it doesn't matter because
And
it pulls him off the ground, so you can't actually like perform a reprisal. He could also just immediately like I don't think it's like frame one, but it's an insanely fast like move. He can just do Helmbreaker like immediately afterwards, or just like Angel Boost away, Helmbreaker, do a follow up or something. Just
or
because
Dante
like
also has, like I said, the hell's it called? Flipper as well.
yes. Well, so the problem is that Flipper can only be activated reliably in the air. I don't even think it can be activated on the ground because it's
It
meant to
can't
be
be
an air.
activated on the ground.
Can't or can?
Can.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Isn't it only an aerial move? Isn't that the entire point of it? Because it's utilized by Trickster? Also, like every time I've seen Flipper be used, every time I've been able to use it effectively, or actually at all, it is only ever activated in the air. I've never seen anyone ever use it on the ground.
I'll set up a scenario real quick for it. Do my stuff.
That changes a little bit, but that probably doesn't change too much. Because
So anything that's a knockback, you can actually use it.
most of Dante's attacks are just like pokes and things that like ricochet, like the Aquila and Ebony and Ivory's like ricochet shots. So he doesn't actually have to like consistently perform like he doesn't have to win neutral like a neutral game between the two of them. He could just keep dashing around and throwing various attacks. I think it's only like it only gets put in like like a problematic situation if he throws out something like Arbiter and he's not throwing like Flush or something. Um, if he throws out Arbiter and tries to do like normal combos with Arbiter, he'll probably get fucked by four Dante. Or if he goes for like a greedy like dash in, then perhaps. I'm just saying that if Reboot Dante wants to dash around, shoot a couple projectiles, and like overdrive, and then just bait with like Aquila, um, and Angel Boost, he can just keep doing that, and then like Helmbreaker stuff. Now, granted, Pandora is problematic if Dante just keeps doing like jumping and doing minigun. And the I honestly think like his minigun and Coyote A, like his aerial Coyote A shot is the best conditions he has for approaching Reboot Dante. Just because if he gets that one hit off, he can knock him back with enough stagger. It also has like I think it has a lasting hitbox because it has like buckshot, so it hits more than once. Though it's obviously intended to like hit multiple enemies, but I mean that wouldn't really matter in this scenario. You want to hit as many times as you can to hit one enemy that's flying all over the place.
You can also jump cancel it too.
What?
The Cartier.
Oh yeah, no, he could jump cancel like pretty much everything in the game. Um,
As you should.
I just think that like when it comes to Reboot Dante, most of the like supporting arguments that people use for him in like a gameplay scenario versus like most other versions of Dante, it's usually just inertia. But like the problem is that like inertia relies on like it relies on a basis of being useful under the condition that you're performing aerial combos consistently and getting those setups consistently, which is only the case if you're fighting someone that you know how to fight. And Also, if their physics work the same way as yours, and if they're usually just a minor boss or enemy that doesn't do a lot of moving around. There are different examples of that, like the assaults and the frosts, but they usually only have like one or two reprisals. Their actual movement isn't consistently all over the place, and they usually won't break out of your combos that often. They'll usually be trapped there for an eternity, which is not necessarily true with Reboot Dante, as he also has access to one good Devil Trigger activation. So
That's not all inertia is used for. It allows aerial moves to carry over movement
yeah,
as
no,
well as other moves to
they
carry
carry
over.
again. It facilitates complete aerial control in terms of combos, momentum, movement, everything. It's just a movement system in the air. That's what it's intended to do. Now, like that has a lot of depth to it, I understand, but it's only really like practical against like enemies that you know how to fight already and just like AI. Which wouldn't be the case for Reboot Dante because he has the ability to basically just shove a shitload of iframes into his dash and just keep running around forever. Like, I could probably show you this like right now, but like Dante can just air dash, jump once, air dash down twice into another shooting star, and then just keep like his angel evade. At least in the definitive edition, this isn't the case in like base reboot. Um, Base Reboot, I believe it's only one dash. In Definitive Edition, it's three. And he can do two down into the normal one after he waits and do like three more again. So he could have up to six dashes in the course of like 2 seconds. Not counting like, actually, no, seven if we're counting his normals and like a jump. So that is an insane amount of iframes and frames for him to just be completely and totally like invincible and safe. And he can act out of any one of those actions into overdrive, into charge shot or ricochet shot, into his kablooey like normal shot, or into like fireworks, revenant's normal shots, any of Ernix's like uppercuts though. Let's be realistic here. He's probably, I think we could agree, neither one of them are performing like charge attacks on each other. Like, I don't think it's reasonable to assume Reboot Dante is going to be able to perform a charged uppercut. Can you agree to that?
That Reboot Dante would be able to perform charged uppercut.
I don't think he will be able to perform a charged uppercut because 4 Dante is going to be flying all over the fucking moon.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then you've also
Realistically,
got, like, if they do the zoning game, 4 Dante has access to quick drives. He has access to Pandora, as I stated,
mhm.
and Yamato, as well as Royal Guard. And
Well, so as far as zoning is concerned, honestly, I think Pandora's minigun is his best shot at like controlling space because Yamato does have a startup, like he has to jump backwards when he performs the judgment cut, and he also has to space it within a specific area. And when he not only does it have a telegraph, when he performs it, it like it doesn't act immediately. Like when the dimensional cut comes out, you have to wait for all of the slashes to actually appear on the field before they're actionable hitboxes. Meaning Riri Dante can just dodge. It also has a very heavy sound effect, so he could just wait and then like demon evade. Then at that
yeah,
point, he has like a massive damage buff.
my thing
I
is
also
if
think
you can do the Yamato into a trick and then hopefully if the jump cancel off into a Coyote A shot, you've essentially buffered him into the Yamato hitbox.
I mean, I think it's probably fine. Like, I don't think there's any combos that Dante could get out of like a Coyote A because he'd probably just be knocking Reboot Dante back. Plus, Reboot
Well, if you
Dante,
jump cancel it, think you can get them to stay where they're at.
Well, like
Check
Reboot
that real
Dante
quick.
can also just like shoot Kablooey out of Angel of Eight or any of his things. He just has to hit Dante like once or twice with a Kablooey, and then just like wait and throw Aquila's at a range, and he's probably safe. Because after that point, anytime Dante performs an action, anytime he moves or just finishes an air trick, he could just press what is it, square X or XA, depending on which controller you're on, to just detonate Kablooey immediately.
So
Should
Royal
do.
Guard come in handy.
Well, so the problem is that Royal Guard can't cancel literally everything. It's not even like not even DMC3's Royal Guard is a perfect cancel. In fact, the only move that actually functioned as a perfect cancel in DMC is DMC4 Nero's Devil Trigger activation. It doesn't actually, like, Dante's Royal Guard doesn't actually have the ability to completely and perfectly cancel everything. It has a couple frames, like, startup. It's nowhere near as slow as, like, Fives, obviously. It's way faster, but it is not a perfect cancel. Like, so if he just manages to get out of, like, an air trick, he's going to have to be Royal Guarding, like, literally every single time he performs an actual thing. And every time he does that guard, he's going to have to drop it to do something else. And then Reboot Dante will just charge a charge shot or charge something or charge overdrive and just keep firing things at him. I think realistically, what this fight's going to look like is Dante's going to be air tricking around a bunch and trying to hit him with shotgun and then also like Royal Guarding like every other instant of the fight and doing flipper anytime he gets hit in the air. And he's just going to be dashing around and dash canceling and then maybe performing a quick drive here and there. Though quick drive is, though it's much faster than his normal drive, it is very slow compared to the Reboot's overdrive. Like, what's it called? Dante could just come down to the ground with Helmbreaker or like just Angel Evade into overdrive and then just shoot all of them.
Yeah, and you can't cancel out of quick drive either, at least with air trick.
You can't cancel out of any of the drives for Reboot Dante, but he doesn't really need to.
You can guard cancel it though.
Out
Out of quick drive.
I mean, that's fine.
I just tried it real quick. Yeah, for Dante's guard cancel is actually very
fast. Yeah, it is very fast, but it's not a perfect cancel. It doesn't cancel literally every single action on the first actionable frame. And that's like, I have. I've compared it to four's what's it called? Four's fucking Nero. And four's Nero can not only has like what I would call a faster cancel, his cancel has like priority over all moves in his kit. So no matter what the move is, unless it's like a Yamato super move like Showdown or Maximum Bad, he can cancel any move in his arsenal. Whereas for Dante, that's not necessarily the case. He can't cancel like Pandora's super moves with Royal Guard. At least not when he goes into some of them. He can cancel certain super moves with Gilgamesh. Though I believe he can cancel pretty much everything with Lucifer. Certain super moves and style moves with Swordmaster. And he obviously can't cancel like Royal Guard moves, but that's fine.
Well,
that's in the same style.
The moves with Lucifer for the pinup and pinup can't be canceled by Royal Guard. Pretty sure there may be something else.
I know we've been here for a while. Where do you want to go for here? Because it just feels like we've just been kind of hashing this out. Because I've discussed like Reboot Dante's win conditions. I think it's mostly just zoning, just incredible iframes on his evasion, and just really really fast, powerful reprisal options like a shotgun and stuff like Aquila and Kablooey that are just really good attrition moves. Like you can just throw them or shoot them, and then they'll just they will literally play the game for him while he just angel evades around the map, or just rolls, or does whatever.
For Dante, his conditions to be Royal Guard, the cancels from Royal Guard, the flipper into Full House, into another trick, and
Actually,
shotgun into his cancels, a bunch of other stuff.
I think I know how we can move forward in this. Why don't you talk about the things that you think Reboot Dante can do well, and I'll talk about the things that For Dante can do well.
I have not played.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I can't rep myself twice. That's not how this works.
So.
Devil, what are you doing?
It may come as a shock, but I did boycott Reboot initially, and I never got around to playing it.
Wait, you never played the Reboot at all?
No.
Oh my
God. Someone was fucking wrong, weren't you, Mangler? I'm just gonna soak in my victory for just a moment. We didn't even.
Actually, that means Zim would be more qualified to argue it than you would, because he's at least played
Reboot. Sure.
Well, at least we'll have Devil's take for DMC4 since he's been repping it the entire time. So if push comes to shove and we need to like add a second part to this, we've already got Devil's input.
See if
tune in for the next part 6 months from now, after Devil has completely and totally grinded out all the achievements and platinum both versions of the reboot, and is now a combo god.
You're gonna force the poor boy to play DMC reboot? That's
no, that was a joke.
Was it?
I say I could actually buy it Thursday and play through it for about maybe.
He didn't think it was a joke.
It's 2 hours. A pretty good game, like combo wise.
I mean, if you say so.
Hey, it's the best Western action game. Fight me.
What do you qualify? Well, okay, no, hang on, we're still in the middle of a video here. Okay. Okay, so are you guys good? Have you guys gotten out all your reasons, all your points?
I didn't mention a couple things. So Devil Trigger. So I didn't discuss how this would actually function because obviously Reboot Dante's Devil Trigger can send you to the fucking moon. So here's what I'm gonna allow, I guess. If Dante, if he activates it, it'll send Dante to the moon, and then Dante can like break out of it with like Devil Trigger or like Flipper, right? Yeah. However, if Reboot Dante deactivates it, it will send him falling down to the ground, which means it will put him in an actionable frame. That being said, Reboot Dante does have to conserve Devil Trigger to do it, and his activations are far more balanced than most of the Devil Triggers in the series, because he actually has a lot heavier of a cost when he goes into it, so he can probably only do it once and then has to like battle for a while in order to get Devil Trigger. We would also have to buff his like DT gain in order for him to exist in a multiplayer scenario, but assuming we didn't buff him, he would probably only be able to use it once and then again later near the end of the fight. Whereas I think one of the biggest advantages for Dante has is that his Devil Trigger gain is not affected in a multiplayer scenario. He could taunt. He could literally probably just taunt and then just run around in Royal Guard and do dashes to like avoid, and he could probably build up a decent amount of DT over time, enough to use Devil Trigger.
Also, Yamato does allow him to gain 1 DT rune if he sheathes it.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid, but I don't know if he'd be able to do that unless he got like an actual hit off, because like he's gonna have to keep moving around. There might be a time when he can, but like you have to keep in mind, like all the attacks in the definitive edition are very, very fast.
Am I the only one hearing static from Mangler's mic?
How can you be hearing static?
I think it's like unplugged a little bit, or I think it's like not plugged in all the way. Remember,
you also gain 1 DT rune for every perfect block as well.
If you're using a USB mic, remember, the more things you have open on the computer, the like worse it gets.
I only have Discord open.
All right, continue.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I just think like most of this is just going to be camping, evading, like the occasional bluff, and just like mid-ranged options with like powerful stagger moves like Coyote A, overdrive, things like that. I think it's going to be a really sweaty fight of just people like not what it's probably gonna look like is they're both gonna be dashing around for like 50 minutes, like they're in like fucking melee. Except they're in a three-dimensional plane, so they're gonna be moving around like the inner edges of the arena, and they'll just be like poking each other every now and then, like super safe moves, nothing that's like very committal. Because if either one of them commits too hard, then as soon as the other person like breaks out, they're just gonna get fucked.
I thought we were
Also,
talking about gameplay,
Reboot
not
Dante.
relationship style.
Well, I was also gonna say Reboot Dante can, due to his gravity, he can be auto broken out of combos after like a second or two, um, and he can also just break himself out of combos with Devil Trigger. Not to mention he can get a fair decent a bit of DT from getting damaged in Devil Trigger. So if we're considering what they are at like max health, he will have enough to get to his activation sooner, especially if he's hitting Dante. Um, yeah, like
Where for Dante has super double trigger and
well, he doesn't have super armor. He has heavy armor. He can be hit out of attacks in that game. Though it is quite difficult to. You have to have moves with high amounts of stagger, but Reboot Dante does have that. I'm just saying, like, more likely the only way he's going to stagger him is if he hits him with, like, Arbiter's Drop from the air. Or Aerial Flush. Which Aerial Flush is slow, but, like... The thing is, Aerial Flush is a stagger-heavy, like, projectile from the air. That's not... Like if we're talking an actual move that exists in his arsenal, I don't think Dante has a stagger heavy projectile from the air. All he's really got, I think, is Pandora's minigun. Because Lucifer is a timed explosive, so it wouldn't really count. And Rebellion doesn't have any like aerials that like it's not like he can do round trip in the air, right?
wait till DMC6.
It took us 20 years, but we finally managed to learn how to optimize Dante's Rebellion. Watch, he can now throw it in the air. Yeah, I don't think I don't think Osiris is really gonna make much of a difference here. I mean, I guess prop or not prop, the what's it called? The rake move where you can just like hook enemies below Dante and like bring them up into where you are. That is technically good, but like it would be super situational. He does have his forward lunge attack, which is streak, but it is very much like for Nero's streak. He doesn't have an actionable like hitbox on it immediately. Like when he throws himself forward,
So
he's
it's a
like
high commitment move.
well, so let me like if you saw it right now, it happens almost immediately afterwards. But like I could say the exact same thing about for Nero. Like
Which
if
can
you've
still be
played
stingered
for
out of it.
well, so if you play for Dante's boss fight, you know that plenty of players have tried to hit like for Dante with streak, and for Dante just like rolls and does like
Oh, he doesn't even have to roll. He can just stinger and it will fuck you
oh
up.
yeah, if we're talking like straightforward rush moves, unless Reboot Dante does a stinger, like all of his other straightforward rush moves, as far like streak is gonna lose. He probably, I'm assuming a Reboot like player probably wouldn't do that because they would know this. They would probably just use like Stinger. It's also worth noting that if Dante gets caught, so if Dante gets caught in like normal combos, which is entirely possible because Reboot Dante is going to be like tricking around a bunch. He can just take that. He can immediately take that hit like the frame afterwards and transform it into an overdrive. Like literally immediately afterwards. So if he flippers out of it, he can hit him immediately, or he can just wait. He can
That's when
also.
Just guard through it.
Well, I'm saying
fly
like
through that.
he can just wait. So Like he can just wait for the exact moment when he decides to shift or move. Because keep in mind, for Dante has a sound effect when he like switches to all of his styles. He literally yells gun, trick, sword, or guard, or dark. Like he says like one specific syllable of his like style, and he has a color coded like animation. So he has a massive telegraph for when he's going to like go into his move. So I think it'll probably be pretty easy for the reboot person to figure out what the Dante player is like trying to do, because every time they're in disadvantage, they'll either do trickster, they'll say trick, or like guard, or both simultaneously afterwards. And all the reboot person has to do is just like aerial dodge around and like throw Aquila, like round trip Aquila. Because like, regardless of how you feel about like Dante's like Royal Guard, like defensive options, I agree he has existing defensive options that already makes some of his options better than Reboot Dante's, because Reboot Dante's has no defensive option. He has no equivalent of Royal Guard, but he has no way to like deal with projectiles when under Royal Guard. All he can do is block them. He can't advance. He has to sit there and take the attack. Whereas as soon as Dante throws like drive, or as soon as he finishes throwing that or Aquila, he can just roll. He can just roll on over there while he's in Aquila and sit right outside of his range and hit him with like Kablooey.
Yeah,
This
also
refills
DT as well.
I was also going to say this kind of depends on how we design Kablooey, because if Kablooey is allowed to stick to Dante while he's in guard, then Reboot Dante probably wins. If it isn't, then it's probably like a high difficulty fight.
Well, I would treat it like Charge Shot level 3 is treated, which does linger on for Dante.
So the reason I say that is because Kablooey. So Kablooey, when fired at Virgil and the Dream Runner, gets knocked aside, but while they do have a guard, they're not exactly a guard in the traditional sense, because they're using a sword, and it's technically registered as like a parry frame, because any attack that you do just gets like ping ponged away, and this includes like multi hits or like singular hits. So we could assume that if it hits Dante's like, how about this? If he royal blocks, it'll just nullify it. Do you think that would be like a fair assertion? Like if he royal blocks Kablooey, it would just like nullify the stick completely.
I don't know, because even with Nero's level 3 Charge Shot, as soon as it sticks to Dante, he can also perfect guard the explosion.
Yeah, but like the problem is that like in that scenario, Nero can just put him in a position, like he can just force him to switch to another style, or chase him, wait until he makes a move, and then grab him as soon as he like goes into a guard frame, and then he gets hit during the grab and takes additional damage. Now, Reboot Dante has a way better kit than 4 Nero. Like, I don't know if that sounds like a hot take to some people, but like he is another version of Dante. He just doesn't have styles, which means his neutral game and his neutral tools are far better than like your average like style switching Dante. Because Dante's optimization comes from his like his best tools being optimized under a controlled environment over a period of time at the highest possible potential, not at a basic level. His basic tools and his neutral is kind of ass. Like, I mean, it doesn't seem that way after you've played him for so long, but that's because you've optimized him. All of his moves require like 2 or 3 other moves to be optimized correctly. Reboot Virgil only really requires like maybe 1 move to optimize everything else. Like Angel of Aid to optimize every single setup. And it's extremely safe and like requires essentially no brain. No brain cells are required to do it. It's very brain dead, very broken.
As every Virgil is.
Not that kind of broken. A different kind of broken. But I suppose it's similar to trick canceling in that it is very stupid. Um, I'm saying like I think that I guess we could give like our closing thoughts. I think that Reboot Dante does probably take it just by overwhelming him with like projectiles and whatnot over time. Um, obviously, Devil has probably his like disagreements with that. But those are my thoughts. You
I
guys could.
I do. I think Dante's Royal Guard for 4, if it's timed correctly and you just frame it for release, you will actually be able to fly to his position.
Um, I guess you guys could probably like decide in the comments
Especially
because
if
like honestly,
you're using Stinger and to close the gap and then you guard to it, then release that. Because if you do, you're going to carry the inertia from Stinger into the just guard, allowing for further frames for that.
Mhm.
Are you two done? Or are you two done?
Yeah, I don't think there's too much else to cover. I think we've covered pretty much
All right.
everything there.
So those were the two most. Those are two people I knew who knew the most in-depth gameplay regarding this situation. So hopefully, if you guys are interested on the gameplay side of things, their conversation wasn't enlightening to you guys. So with that said, thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day, and just remember that every version of Virgil beats Dante anyways. So take care, everybody.